Welcome again to the Medical Terminology Podcast. This episode is Chapter 5, Part 1, Word Parts. For most students, Chapter 5 is one of the more difficult chapters. The reason for this, I believe, is first of all, there's simply a lot of content here. Secondly, one needs to understand a lot of the physiological processes that happen in the system in order to truly understand some of the terminology. Finally, a lot of the terms are unique. We cannot build them using the word parts that we've studied so far. Now, given that, there still are some word parts we can use to our advantage, and the chapter does introduce quite a few new word parts. What I'm going to do is present them to you in a way that I hope will make them a little easier to grapple with and memorize, because as in the other chapters, we need to know the word parts in order to be able to parse the terms. First of all, we've got some word parts that relate to the heart, which is really the central organ in the cardiovascular system. The first one I think we already know. That's cardio. C-A-R-D-I/O. Now there are two prefixes that are introduced late in the chapter that relate to disorders of the heart. And that's why I'm giving them to you now, because they relate to the heart. The first one is tachy, T-A-C-H-Y hyphen. This prefix means fast or excessively fast. We can think of a tachometer on a car. It indicates how many RPMs the engine is rotating at. Well, tachy relates to speed, and we have a term called tachycardia, which means excessively fast heart rate. Tachycardia is spelled T-A-C-H-Y-C-A-R-D-I-A. And the other prefix, I think we've already seen before, and it's the opposite of too fast, it's too slow. And that is brady, B-R-A-D-Y hyphen. Brady means too slow, and we have a term bradycardia, B-R-A-D-Y-C-A-R-D-I-A, which means abnormally slow heart rate. Now, the second part of the cardiovascular system is the blood, and we have several word parts relating to blood. First of all, we have hemo, H-E-M/O, which is usually the primary combining form that means blood. Though we also have an alternate one, hemato, H-E-M-A-T/O. Either of those refer to blood. Again, we do have to be careful because some terms prefer one combining form, other terms prefer the other. And finally, we have a suffix that relates to blood. That is -E-M-I-A, emia. Anytime you see that suffix emia, we're also talking about blood. We usually use that suffix when we're creating a term that relates to something being wrong with the blood. Now, the blood is composed of a variety of things. We'll go into more detail about that in the next episode on anatomy. But one important thing it's composed of is cells, blood cells. And one type of blood cell are the red blood cells. And if you remember way back in Chapter 1, we have a combining form that means red. That's erythro, E-R-Y-T-H-R/O. We also have white blood cells. If you remember again from Chapter 1, the combining form that means white is leuko, L-E-U-K/O. Finally, in Chapter 2, when we introduced the concept of cytology and cells, we learned some of the word parts that refer to cell. One that we're going to see quite a bit in this chapter is a suffix erythrocyte, -cyte. And you may be able to see where this is going because the term for a red blood cell is an erythrocyte, erythrocyte. Erythrocyte is a red blood cell. The term for a white blood cell is leukocyte, leukocyte. And we're going to see those terms quite a bit in this chapter when we're talking about not only the anatomy, but also, of course, the various things that can go wrong with the blood and the blood cells. Finally, we have another suffix that ties into the blood, and that is -crasia. That's crasia. And this suffix is used in a very broad sense to mean some type of blood disorder. There's a term in the chapter, dyscrasia, dyscrasia, and that means a blood disorder. And it's a very broad term. It can refer to a variety of blood disorders. But if you have a blood dyscrasia, you have some kind of blood disease. Okay, and finally, we have vessels, the third major component of the cardiovascular system. And we have quite a few new combining forms that relate to vessels, and these are the ones that tend to give people trouble. So you want to pay particular attention to them in your study. First of all, we have a general combining form that just refers to vessel, and that is angio, ANGI/O. Angio means vessel, any type of vessel. It's a very broad term. We also have vaso, VAS/O. I would say we generally are going to see angio more, but again, some terms prefer vaso. Either one means a vessel. Well, there are types of vessels in the chapter, and each one of those has its own combining form. First of all, we have a type of vessel known as a vein. The primary combining form for vein is phlebo, PHLEB/O. Now we also have an alternate one, and that is veno, VEN/O. And that one kind of looks like vein. That one's not too hard, but the primary one, phlebo, is an oddball. It's like, how do you get vein from that? So you're going to have to be careful and focus on that. The next one we have is the combining form for an artery, which is a second type of vessel. The combining form for artery is arterio, ARTERI/O. That one, not too hard. Arterio, artery, kind of looks similar. But one thing you do need to be careful of is don't confuse arterio with angio, because they kind of look alike. You can get a little sloppy, confuse them, and make a mistake somewhere. Remember that angio, ANGI/O, means any type of vessel. Arterio, ARTERI/O, is a specific kind of vessel, the artery. And finally, we have the capillaries. And there is a combining form for capillary. That is capillo, CAPILL/O. That one's not too hard. Capillo, capillary, it kind of looks and sounds similar. That one's usually not too much trouble. Then finally, we have some word parts that relate to things that can go wrong inside the blood vessels. The first one is thrombo, THROMB/O, and thrombo refers to a clot. And I should restate what I said about something going wrong. A clot can be something good if it's preventing you from bleeding to death, but a clot could also be something bad if it forms where you don't want it. Thrombo refers to a clot. The next combining form is embolo, EMBOL/O. Now, literally, that means something inserted. In the context of Chapter 5, we're going to use embolo to create terms that refer to a foreign object circulating inside the vessels. We need to be careful with the differences between a thrombo, which is a clot, and an embolo, which is foreign object, because a clot is an example of a foreign object. I mean, it's something made of the body, but it's something specific. Floating around, you don't want it. Embolo could refer to a variety of things floating through the vessels that you don't want. So embolo, think of it as a more general term than thrombo. And finally, we have athero. And I think we saw this way back in Chapter 1. Athero, ATHER/O, refers to a fatty plaque. Now again, we need to be careful not to confuse athero with arterio. ARTERI/O, arterio refers to an artery. Athero, ATHER/O, refers to a fatty plaque, something we would find inside the artery. Okay, that covers the major word parts for Chapter 5. And again, it helps to learn them if you group them by what they refer to. We talked about ones that are going to relate to the heart, ones that are going to relate to the blood, and ones that are going to relate to the vessels. Okay, let's go ahead and do some practice. What is the word part that refers to blood? Well, there's actually two of them. The primary one is hemo, HEM/O. The alternate one is hemato, HEMAT/O. Now we also have a suffix that refers to blood. Some of you may have thought of that suffix. What is the suffix that refers to blood? That's emia, -EMIA. What is the combining form that refers to vessel? That's angio, ANGI/O, and we also have the alternate one, vaso, VAS/O. What is the prefix that means too fast? Well, that's tachy, TACHY hyphen. And what's the prefix that means too slow? That's Brady, BRADY hyphen. What is the combining form that refers to a vein? Well, again, we have two of those. Probably the primary one is going to be phlebo, PHLEB/O. We also have veno, BEN/O. What is the word part that refers to a clot? That's thrombo, THROMB/O. What is the word part that refers to an artery? That's arterio, ARTERI/O. What is the word part that refers to heart? That's cardio, CARDI/O. What is the word part that refers to a cell? Well, that's the suffix cyte, -CYTE. Now, what would be the term then for a red blood cell? That's going to be an erythrocyte, ERYTHROCYTE. Again, remember, erythro means red, cyte means cell, gives us erythrocyte. What is the word part that would refer to, in a very general sense, a blood condition? Well, that would be crazy, or crasia, -CRASIA. And what would be the term for a white blood cell? Well, that's a leukocyte, LEUKOCYTE. Again, leuko refers to white, cyte refers to cell, white blood cell, leukocyte. What is the word part that refers to a fatty plaque? That's athero, ATHER/O. What is a word part that refers to something inserted? That's embolo, EMBOL/O. Something inserted is what it literally means, but how are we primarily going to use it in this chapter? What does it refer to? Well, that would be a foreign object, as in a foreign object circulating in the blood, like an embolus. Okay, and what's the word part that refers to a capillary? That's capillo, CAPILL/O. And finally, what is the word part that refers to an artery? That's arterio, ARTERI/O. Okay, well, this gives you an introduction to the word parts for Chapter 5. Again, they're always the starting point. We're going to go further into these in the next episode when we'll start looking at anatomy, which in this chapter can be quite a challenge. There's a lot of little details to learn. Well, that ends this episode of the Medical Terminology Podcast.